All right, I got 6 o'clock now, so we're gonna call the meeting of the Highlands School Board to order. First item is the roll call by the clerk.
Benish, here. Drushmeyer.
Here.
Dury. Esser.
Here.
Midget.
Here.
Schmidt. Here. Yeager. Here.
Thank you. If you could join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is posting of the meeting given to the public pursuant to Wisconsin statute 1984. A motion by Esser and a second by Mitchick. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the approval of the September 8th regular meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the September 8th.
I'll second that motion.
A motion by Benish and a second by Schmidt to approve the September 8th meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the approval of current expenses and vouchers payable.
Just pretty normal. There's just a couple things on the top of page 4. Reading Wonders program. So we got the updated reading series for grades 4 and 5. So we have all the elementary up till 5 would have the Wonders program, which is important to do that. So that we ordered that after the first of the year. Farther down is halfway down, Pilling had a couple of electrical work that they did. One was for putting 3 fans in the kitchen area, and they repaired the parking lot where there was wire was exposed, and we're going to move that post out of there and fix up that connection. So those 2 things are the main thing, and then some roof repairs again where it was leaking. After they repaired one area, the other area, my understanding, was leaking. So $3,000 for that repair.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Esser and a second by Yeager to approve the current expenses and vouchers payable. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is public appearances before the board, not for action. All right, not seeing anything there. We'll move on to announcements and reports. First is Mr. Carroll for the principal report.
Yeah, thanks. I want to start with some thank yous that I'd like to recognize from our community and around our community. Highland Small Engines We had a shop class, obviously our engines class, so we went down there and Bruce down there donated as many engines as we'd like. He had a ton of small engines up there. I mean, up to 30 that we come up and gave to us, just go pick them up. So I want to recognize those two gentlemen and their business downtown there helping us out. Highland Lions Club, again, helps us out all the time, and they donated, they call it Stuff the Bus. They bring in a ton of stuff as far as mostly elementary, but for anyone really, notebooks, crayons, pencils, markers, all that stuff, and just a ton of it. So any kid that needs it, runs out, short on stuff, we have all that stuff there that they donate. We appreciate the Lions Club. Collision Specialist Ray Slack, again, I talked to him, I stopped and got a check, a donation from them. What they do every year, as you guys remember, for every person in our district that does business with Collision Specialists, he takes a percentage of it and donates it to the school. And this is, I think we're going on 8 to 10 years now in the Lou that he's been doing this, and it's usually between $500 and $500 every year. So I want to recognize Ray Slack and his wife and Collision Specialists for their donation again. Lastly, Jeff Dagenhart, lucky dog, won the 50-50 at the football game and donated $100 back to the freshman class. So I want to recognize Jeff and Johnny Dagenhart. Some other things going on around the district. End of the first 9 weeks, hard to believe, is next week, Thursday already. Kids don't have school next Friday. It's the end of the quarter, first quarter in the books. Kids been working their tails off. I've been on the kids in the middle of high school a little bit more here the last couple of weeks, trying to get them caught up and finish up that first quarter on a good note. We have a lot more kids right now staying after school, getting some help, so that's good. Hopefully we can get most of them, if not all of them, to their grades where they need to be. But, some things going on coming up around here. Veterans Day we're going to host this year again. We're going to have it in person this year. We're going to have that November 11th. It's going to be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so we'll do that again. We're hosting middle school honors band here. That's coming up too, where the kids in our conference come and they practice here and then play that night. It's our turn to host that, so that's coming up. Exciting thing for us. Sports wise, we can't ask for a better situation than we're in right now. If we look, the boys won a sheriff conference with their win at homecoming. They go to Seneca Friday night, but if they take care of business, we should be fine. But even if they lose that game, they still have a sheriff conference wrapped up. So congratulations to them. The girls go to Potosi tomorrow night, and it just worked out that Potosi is the last league game, and whoever wins that game will have conference championship. So if Potosi wins it, they'll be the lone champion, and if Highland wins it, we'll be the lone champion. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a full house. It's going to be pretty exciting. So good things for the sports teams around this fall. The girls did have their seed meeting, and they did get the 1 seed. So we will host, when tournament starts, we get to bye the first round, and we will host the winner of, I believe, Seneca versus Pecatonica. So we will play the winner of that game, and we will host that game. I'm pretty sure, though, we will host as long as we keep winning right here in Highland. So the table is set. So if we take care of business and play like we can, I think it's going to be an exciting year for both the football team and the volleyball team. The football team will not know where they seed or what seed they get until after Friday's game. I think they'll find out usually Saturday morning. That's done electronically now. So last year it did kind of work in our favor as far as the seed. The season did, but hopefully that's a little different this year for them if they take care of business. I had a meeting with the staff today after school, so some things that we are going to look into. We are going to get actually course book changes before we leave for Thanksgiving, actually even before that, and then we're going to get the sheets out to the kids this year a lot earlier. Our goal is to have all the sheets returned to us. The sheets, what I mean with kids sign up for classes for next year. So we're going to meet with the 8th graders, obviously, a couple of times and inform them how it works. And then we want to get our schedule a lot sooner this year than we had last year. With COVID last year, everything was a pain, but even though we're still in a pandemic, we believe that we can get this done with the difficult times as staff and trying to find staff the earlier we can get on that. If we need to, we don't know yet, but if we need staff, we want to get on that as quick as we can and get our name out there in the old marketplace as quick as we can and just clean that up a little bit, I should say, not clean it up, but just move that forward a couple months and then hopefully have a lot more stuff in place before summer hits. As you know, last year, for example, we got, close to 20 new kids, which is great. So things will change. However, having that base done and having all that done ahead of time is gonna help. Creativity Expo, we talked about that meeting today. Obviously, as you know, it's at the end of the year, but we talked about any changes we want to do with that. We want to get back to the portfolios where the parents come in and sit and watch their kids present their portfolios to the parents. We want to get back to that we had to get away from. Senior exit projects, we want to continue with that. I don't know if we'll do the meal. We got away from the meal last year. We'll talk about whether we want to bring that back or not. And then obviously the senior and junior presentations. We used to do it where we brought in, did solo ensemble stuff, did forensic things. We're still looking at if we want to do that or not. Obviously we have time on that, but that's on the discussion table now. J-term, I think we're going to wait on that again and not do that again this year. It's a good thing. I really like it. However, last year we used that extra time instead of J-term to get kids that extra time if they were missing working classes to get caught up. We have so many virtual kids. It's not the case this year, so I explained to the kids that they will not get that extra time. Saying that though, with J-term and combining classes from 6th through 12th grade and then mixing classes together, I think it's just too early for that. So we'll probably, we're not going to do a J-term this year. We're going to wait on that. And maybe next year we can get back to that. But other than that, in the elementary, obviously they're doing well down there. Kids are moving forward. We got done with our first round of the test and are just finishing that up now. See where kids are at. Some projects down there. Miss Rush, she's finishing up. As you know, she does that butterfly thing. The kids just love it. She just finished that. They just released those bad boys. And they're heading down south. So pretty cool stuff. That's it for me, unless you have questions.
It's like we're good. Bird?
Just have a few things and then the rest of my stuff is related to the agenda items, but we'll have an upcoming policy meeting when we get that set. I just wanted to just double check. We want to do a policy that would require a qualifier before we use the coach bus on a trip. So if it's in excess of 150 miles, you draft a policy, something to the effect that then you may use a coach bus, but it's basically putting some parameters in. I'm going to ask the consultant if he has anything like that as a draft, but is that what we talked about in the past to make sure that we have something in writing that just had a little bit of guidance?
Is that one way or round trip?
I think it's one way. Is that, and I'm asking, is that what the miles, I mean, we wouldn't finalize that for, a couple of months with a couple of readings, but that's what I was going to propose, 150 miles. Is it one way? Or,
You just have to say that's probably 3 hours with the bus.
yeah,
So I don't know if that's where we've been in the past. Some of them been like 2.5, 245. We could kind of see where some of those trips ended up. Like the Independence was a long trip, but I don't know if that's even 150 miles.
No, I don't know. I mean,
I have the miles on that one,
wait,
because that was just.
remember what it is? Linda?
Yeah, it was, round trip to Independence. It was 391 miles and 7.25 hours for a bus drive.
Is that from here or was that from home of the bus?
It said, it was leaving directly from Highland instead of the Bloomington.
Geez, I think it's that far. It's miles.
it's almost to a clerical.
Yeah, it's a trip. It was a trip.
But we can, you guys think about that, we can put that number in, if you want a different number, but we'll try to get a policy that addresses that.
Or do we want to look at more of a time that, if it's a 2-hour bus trip or I don't know, if that's something we'd rather, I just know we wanted to make sure we get something in the, as Mr. Bird said, as far as, the Title IX, make sure, because, we get people that come in and say, hey, we'd like to help pay for the bus. which is awesome. Gridiron Club, for example, helped pay for the bus, for example, to go to the trip this year, but we want to make, and sometimes community has a hard time understanding if it's donated, why is that a Title IX issue? As we talked about in depth, it is. No matter where the money comes from, the money goes to the school, so you need to understand if it's donated, it's not the schools. So they don't donate technically to the football team, they donate to the school and then we pay for them. So anyway, that's why we want to make sure we get that in place, so if the girls or whoever has a trip that far and a charter bus may be an option. We don't want to say that it will be an option.
So think about that, and we'll, when we get for November meeting, I don't know if we'd even have the first reading then, because if we have, don't be a week later, so we won't have the policies ready. It'd be probably the first reading in December, second reading in January, but it would be ready for certainly some tournaments in the winter and in the spring athletics. And any other trips if there was another situation. So that's one thing. And another thing is we have $25,000 grant for a handicap accessible bus with a wheelchair lift. There's some available in that price range. I have Philbacks looking for what they can come up with. And they've got a couple identified that they're trying to see what they can do with that. So we have 25,000 and we could go slightly over that. We have some money set aside if we needed to. And my thinking is we would, mileage is one thing, but I want a newer model. If we have a chance to get a little bit better one, I want newer mileage because of they rust out so fast. Usually miles aren't as big a deal as the body. But what I'm asking is, if we already have money set aside for this. So if I get a chance to purchase one next week from Philback, I want basically permission to buy it within that price range, because we want, these come and go too, like the supply of that. So if I find one, we have fun, it's in the budget. So I just want to be able to buy it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, and then one more thing is, I talked last week a little bit with Shannon Strock. I talked quite a bit, and Josh and I both did with Julie Tess. With the charter school, I intend to get the governing board or whoever is left of the governing board together with Josh and myself, and we'll talk about this year, and I'll talk about next year. This is the last year of the 5-year grant, and then we may have some of them come in, possibly in the November board meeting to talk to the board and just discuss the future of that, and at least start deciding if we're going to continue with that. So that'll be coming. We got to get on top of that if we're going to do those things, then we got to kind of gear up and make sure we're following the requirements of that. And if we think it serves its purpose and we don't see the advantages, we may want to go a different direction and just let it expire. Although looking on DPI, there's a checklist of things if you are exiting a charter school, there's some things you have to do to get back out of it. So we'll explore all that. But just want to get into it a little bit more, and we'll see where that takes us and see what people want to do.
And just let me know, Bryce, if you're gonna get them together and want me to come to that, just let me know when it is and I can try and meet with you as well.
Okay. So let me know when you're not going to be here. Okay, unless you have questions, that's what I have.
All right, on to transportation committee update, and we're gonna revisit this later in new business, but Kenny, are you the?
Yep, so basically we met with Worko, and we've done this previous with them where we sit down with them with about a year or two left in their contract to find out what the next future years are going to be for budgeting purposes. So that way, if everything falls into place, we'd like to re-up our contract with them for the next however many years so we know what we have for budgeting purposes on daily routes and bus trips and all that good stuff. So we'll be making a recommendation here later for that.
Sounds good. Next one then is the Finance Committee update. Do you want to review some of that stuff here, Bryce?
Yeah, is it revenues first? We talk a little bit about things. We did get a slight increase in revenues. We got 9,600 more for what's called uncounted pupils. And that wasn't available to us before the committee met. But if you open that spreadsheet, if you can see how Linda has it laid out, and how Nancy had it set up previous, it shows last year's budget and how last year's actually came out, and it shows this year's budget. Then the shaded in area, which is the difference, those are the things that I like how it's laid out, because those are the things I just look at. It's what's different from this year than last year. So we have an increase in aid, which is going to actually lower our property taxes because we cannot exceed what's called a revenue cap. And if you look on the it was a little far right under, it's kind of a pink or raspberry. It shows that the property taxes are estimated to go down 103,000 from last year, which is good. It's a good, for the taxpayers of the district. It's also showing that if you go to the top under the revenue cap, we have under the Fund 10 revenue for property taxes and revenue, it's $3,808,000. And we only have to borrow or appropriate $75,000 for the roof debt. The other Wisconsin retirement system that came off last year was the last payment for that. At the bottom, if you stay in those spaces, it's talking about open enrollment. Revenue we get from open enrollment is 291,000, so that's really good. We have more open enrollment kids in than we have out, which is, where you want to be on that.
Bryce, I don't think we have what you're looking at. Are you looking at the 21 and 22 revenue?
It doesn't have a
It's not
hyperlink on
linked
it.
on there, so I just want to let people know if you're trying to follow on with the other spreadsheet that it's not gonna.
Yeah, I was getting confused.
Okay,
The link is not there.
No,
No.
no, it's wiped out right now.
It was today.
It was there a little bit ago, because I
It was
opened it.
last week.
Probably,
We just have the budget history.
Is that budget history?
yeah, that spreadsheet's different than the one he's reading out.
probably,
The
probably wiped it
revenue
out.
looks like this.
Hang on, you don't have that
That's
thing.
quick.
Are you looking at it?
I had it open before because Linda and I were talking about it.
You have a copy of it? Hard copy of it?
I can make a copy.
I can go make some and get.
I can link it quick.
Oh,
It's not a big deal. I just wanted the board to know that they weren't looking at the same
Yeah.
thing that he was reading.
I was
out.
getting
Just-
lost. I was like, what is he talking
Yeah.
about? I'm like, well,
I'm not sure what happened there, because it was there.
I was in and out of it. I might have put it on my bar up here, and I might have clicked off of it and clicked on and clicked off, and I might have got it off there myself. So you were relinking it?
You want to go through the other spreadsheet first, Bryce?
Reverend,
That would be the budget history one.
if I get that up. Okay, that's showing, the first part of the history is showing the land value. So we had a large increase in land value. It's almost 5%. It's just under 5%. But it went from 118 million to 124 million in the valuation of our property in the district. And how that affects us is that'll help hold what the mill rate down, because the taxes are applied, the mill rate of the rate per thousand, depends on your taxes, but then it's spread out over the value of your district. So the more property in your district, it has more places to divide the taxes over. So that's That's important. If your property values are going down, it has the opposite effect. It's also showing the revenue cap, and the revenue cap it's the second line. And that's basically the amount of money we have to work with each year from the state formula before any federal grants and other ways to get revenue. And so that went up 40,000. And, but not because, they didn't give us any more money per pupil, but we have a few more things in there. A lot of that was from, 28 or 29,000 of transfer of service money where a high need student moved into our district. So that helped kick that up. We wouldn't hardly have had any increase because we didn't get any more money per pupil in the formula. And that really hurts us now, and it's gonna hurt us because I don't think the state will ever replace that back in. So normally last year we got $170 per pupil, and that would stay in there and you'd add to the top of that. So we're fortunate we have some revenues and some money that we can use in other areas. If you look at the bottom of this first chart, it'll show the mill rate going down steadily, and it's approximately just barely over 10. If this would continue, next year we'd be down in the 9s. And remember how Highland used to have a higher mill rate in the area, now it's getting down. And there'll be later on, there'll be, like you could compare with CISA, how we rate, that we might rate in the middle or maybe even in the lower half, I don't know, but we used to be among the highest with building debt. So you guys have done a good job of managing that, and some of it is management, some of it's out of our control. We have the cap, so it happens to us. So tax levy, it's showing a little box. The levy for the Fund 10 and then the Fund 38 is that roof payment that we still have. Fund 39 is 266,000. That's for the referendum debt. And Fund 80 is 20,000. That helps support after school programs at the exercise facility and also for Cardinal Club. I don't want to get too detailed. We will be reviewing all this again. But it's showing that we have, on the bottom page, it shows the differences in expenses this year. Like, for example, the very first line, 65,000, that's because they have another teacher in the elementary. But in the bottom, we have a balanced budget this year, but it shows 181,000 more of expenditures, and I believe in the other chart, it was like 118 or 120,000 more of revenue. So different than last year. So we don't have as much revenue, but we had money that we were able to place in the fund balance last year and in Fund 46. So we are showing, at least we're budgeting for a balanced budget again. Do you want to go back to the other document just to look at it, or?
It's not available.
It's not there yet.
Some of the things with expenses, there will be a few more trips, extracurricular trips, not just athletics, but field trips. We didn't do hardly any, I don't know if we did any field trips last year. Some increase in the nurses contract and some other things in the CISA contract over last year. There's not much travel for professional development or any conferences, things that, for myself and others, most of those were all non-existent or they were virtual.
Should be there now, thank you.
It's there now.
One thing that keeps it, kind of rises lately is this second to the last line. There's a Fund 27 that's your special education fund, and if you don't cover all those costs with any kind of money you get through special ed, you have to transfer from the regular ed to that account, and so we are projecting, an increase in that amount that we've made the transfer. And there's another thing in there, right? Besides that?
Yes, the Fund 46 transfer. So if you look at what the first column under transfer to other funds, that's $658,695. That also includes the $220,000 that we transferred into Fund 46 last year. So then if you go to the next column, the budgeted amount, that $528,000, that does not anticipate a Fund 46 transfer.
So when we say we're down 130,000, it means that the Fund 27, we're projecting that to be up 90,000. But just because we don't know what we're gonna put in Fund 46, and generally what we've done is we've put a little bit in fund balance, and then anything that was unspent at the end of the year, we put in that Fund 46 for future maintenance and operational. We'll go back to the revenues. Can you get back there?
Yep.
Okay. In the column that I would pay the most attention to is I like the shaded in, the column that just shows the difference in it. So it shows, where we're getting less or where we're getting more for the revenues all the way through. It's showing 120,000 of increased revenues. And then the other page, we're showing 180, I think it was, of increased expenditures. So that's compared to last year. And it's showing a reduction on the far right, like in the pink area, pink boxes. And the changes in property taxes of about 103,000 of a decrease overall. Then if what we have are some, in the bottom middle box, it's just showing where we also replaced, put some money in maintenance projects, 45,000, technology, 34,000. We still put money in for a budget for the charter program. And ESSER funding, that is 55,800, would be paying for the new teacher we have. And again, I've talked about this before, but if we carry that forward, this additional teacher for 3 years, we could use that funding until it's gone, but that amount times 4 will be over 200,000. That's gonna take most of the ESSER money that we get with a little bit of money for some maintenance and cleaning things and some other technology and maybe some curriculum, some textbooks and things like that. But so we don't have, like other schools, we don't have a big pot of money where we can change our HVAC over and do a bunch of things like other schools, but it's based on Title I formula, and that's based on poverty, which we don't qualify as high poverty school. And the only thing really that's, we didn't expect that we wouldn't get any increase. We expected maybe we wouldn't get 170 per student. I think we ran numbers at 150. This is when we did projections early in the summer, but not to get any increase per student was a surprise. And I don't want to count on this too much, but there's supposed to be a little bit more money coming through some something that Governor Evers has gotten approved, but it's not, everything's not done with it, so you can't find any information on it. It's talked about in a couple webinars, so there may be some money coming, and our allocation would be about 35,000 based on a number per student, and the money would come to us, and we can use it however we want to use it. But it's only 1 year, it's only one-time money. So that is supposed to come, I don't think it'll come before I don't think we'll know the details before the annual meeting, so we'll probably approve what we know, and then that may just come in later. Reviews, but talked about a couple of weeks and it's just not, you don't know the details. And so it makes you just believe it when we see it, I guess. And we'll go through this again on the 27th. Do you have anything to add on anything?
Just that we still don't have the final October 15th certification of aid. We're supposed to have it on October 15th. So the information that we present at the budget hearing might look a little bit different, but hopefully not, all depending on what the aid number is.
Okay, thanks. So it's kind of like you're good for a year at a time or a couple years at a time. You don't know, like the next round when they do the next 2-year budget. You know, it's hard to plan too much farther than 2 years out. So the good thing here, though, the fund balance is approaching $1 million, and we've got over 300,000 in Fund 46. And if we're able to put a bit more in that, you know, maybe there'll be a time when we stop putting in the fund balance, and if we have any money left, we can keep building that Fund 46. So we got to 500,000, now we got something we can work with. So those are all good things. What I do like about the fund balance, though, is if you needed to dip into that for staff, if you needed to hire some things that wasn't in the budget, you come out of your fund balance until you can make an adjustment somehow. Students have needs, people move in and out, and you know, a few things could change. You either add a staff member or a teacher and an aide or something, and that may overdraw your budget. Well, that's where the fund balance, you can use it, where the Fund 46, you couldn't use it for that.
No, I think that sounds good, Bryce, unless anybody has any questions. It's in good shape. It's always hard to know where you're at the beginning of the year, but it's better to be in good shape at the beginning of the year than scrambling to try figuring out how to fix it. So everything looks real good, and tax levy going down is always popular, and everything's just in good shape as far as we can tell, so that's good. I think it took me a couple of years to look at those spreadsheets over and over and actually to somewhat understand what's going on in them. So it's a very complicated system, and after a while it starts to make sense and it looks good. So on to new business then. First item is the College Up student applications. Looks like we have 4 students for spring, Josh.
Correct.
That's just through Southwest Tech.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
A motion by Esser and a second by Benish to approve the 4 students for the College Up student applications at Southwest Tech. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
4 for sociology, that's what it says, 4% sociology and 2 for.
Okay, 6 total.
6 total, yeah.
Sorry about that. Thank you. So 6 total students, we don't want to just approve part of them, right?
Yeah.
All right, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next one then is a Start College Now application. Is that through Southwest Tech too, Josh, or is that somewhere else?
No, I'm not. That one might be through, do you know, Barry? Is it through Southwest Tech? Just different program?
It's
We do it
Southwest
some-
Tech, because I have the application.
Okay. Yeah, it is. We do have some stuff through Oshkosh that we're looking at, but that's not this stuff, so.
We have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Esser and a second by Schmick to approve the Start College Now application. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the bus transportation contract extension with Warco.
We have the contract put together, the 3-year extension contract, and what they had asked, when they had presented this to us, is they would like to include the settlement agreement and release of claims, but they wanted basically the COVID language in there to continue, and that it's on the bottom. It's what we use this year. We went through that with Eileen the last few days, some of this, and the release of claims, you know, the attorney's saying there's no, I mean, that was, we did it when we first closed school down, but there's no really claims to release until you have any claims of something. That's back when the bus company was, you know, bargaining to get paid for some of the days when we were closed. So what this COVID language that is under appendix, it's appendix B probably at the very end. Yes, it's the same thing we put in there this year. And it is basically saying that a catastrophic event or this pandemic, there'll be 20 days. If we're virtual, we don't have school for 20 days, we're paying 80% of the rate. And then after that, we have to negotiate. So it's only clarifying for 20 days, but it's a starting point. And, you know, if we don't have to use it, we won't. But she did point out that, so we added it this year, the same kind of language, just COVID language, but we don't have it for next year. And she said that, well, there's a gap there. And I said, well, I think we did it for 1 year because we figured, well, this got to be the last year of COVID, so we're not going to do it next year. So we could either do one now or anytime for next year, or we could just wait until next summer if we needed to add this in again, do it at that time. So it's kind of up to you, but I wasn't going to put any of it in, and then Barb brought this back in and said they were asking for this language, so it's in the 3-year extension in the future, but we don't have to put it, if you don't want to put it in next year, I guess we don't need. And then the other thing is, there we get a chance to look at the increases on that little chart under appendix A on this. And keep in mind that what they charge us per hour, that's not what the drivers get paid. That's what the company charges, and they've got to pay payroll taxes and, you know, what all their expenses that they have to pay out of that, and workers' comp and all their things, and then try to make another profit on top of that. So what they explain is that eventually gets them to $15 an hour. I don't know if it's 23, 24, or 24, somewhere in there. So drivers get up where they get paid that $15 an hour for those trips. And you also see the wheelchair fixed, the daily rate for that. And if we get this van set up, then we'll have to pay the person to drive the van. So it's not like, we don't save entirely that amount, but we will save a substantial amount if we get the wheelchair van. And as the committee talked, I mean, it's tough to get bus drivers by working with Warco. It gives them a little bit of stability, and just glad to have somebody to do our buses local and take care of things. Questions on this?
But what you're explaining is the COVID thing is just for next year.
The COVID thing we have it for this year because we added it.
This year only.
And then it's in for the
23.
23 through 26.
They wanted.
They asked for it, but we don't have it next school year. We don't have it in there.
Okay.
So we could put it in now, or we can put it in the summer. We could also, we could approve this, and then we could also approve to add COVID language for the 2022-23 school year if we want, and then it would be, we'd have it for this year and the next 4 years.
So we can take it year by year if we need to.
Yeah.
Is that 80% for 20 days pretty standard? Seems like a lot. But,
Well,
It wasn't standard.
it wasn't standard, it was brand new.
But I think that kind of what we talked about is if we don't pay them, then we may end up without a bus company to bus our kids.
Yeah,
They just wouldn't be able to stay.
Right. Trying to strike that balance of we want to keep you, but not
Right.
throw money out the window if the kids are riding the bus.
Right.
And hopefully it would be temporary.
Right,
It
right.
wouldn't be a long term.
Then if it's longer than that for some reason, the other language in our contract, we don't have to pay beyond that. But, yeah, I know it's what jumps out at you if you're in a business, it's like some years you don't make as much, you can't. Some years you borrow money, you go backwards, if you have bad luck, but what Andy's saying is like, there's just not, you can't get drivers, and the bus companies, we're that small, I don't know how profitable we are, so why, be a good partner is great as well. So what if we approve this, and then if we want to put next year COVID language in, we do it next summer?
I guess I don't understand why we wouldn't just put it in, because if we have it for the following 2 years, why would we just skip this next one? I don't know.
So, what do we gotta do?
Was it just accidentally left out of that?
Well, I
next
think
year?
it was because we didn't think of it.
Yeah,
In the summer, we said, oh yeah, well,
okay.
we do it another year, and
Oh, because next year's still our other last year's contract.
yes.
Oh, God, I
Yeah,
understand.
so we just thought we'd be done with it.
Is it just still a crazy pipe dream? Think they could be, can you just wait?
But I mean, if COVID goes away, then we don't use it,
Then we
it
don't-
doesn't
then
really matter.
it's
We're
just
gonna
for
pay
theirs,
12%
it's for theirs.
anyway.
No matter what, it is anyway.
Right.
Yeah,
Still pay full price whether you use it or not.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve it as is and add it into, next year's school year.
I'll second that.
A motion by Schimick and a second by Esser to approve the Oracle contract extension and to add the COVID language to the last year of the existing contract. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. On to personnel items. The first one is approving a grade 10 advisor.
Yes, I'd like to recommend Melissa Straka. She's previously junior advisor, now moved to sophomore classes, so grateful she volunteered to pick that up.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. A second. Earl.
Do they follow them then, or do they just stay in that grade? Okay.
A motion by Esser and a second by Yeager to approve Ms. Straka as the grade 10 advisor. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is volunteer boys basketball coach.
Yeah, Dan Paulmacher, if you remember, he had helped out with the boys previously. And stepped down, he's got some grandkids that play down in Riverdale, but he wanted to be able to see if he could help out when he wasn't watching the girls, so he wouldn't be all the time. So it'd be a nice volunteer to pick up another set of eyes for the boys, so recommend Dan for the boys basketball volunteer coach.
And we don't need to approve the volunteer coaches. You
No.
guys do that, so that's just for your information. Next item then, head cook retirement request.
Yeah, Sharon officially put in her letter of resignation, telling us this is going to be her last year of, I think she's got close to 40, if not over 40 years in the district, so we want to let you know now so we can start that process and hopefully start someone to get trained with Sharon before the year's end, so we don't come in green next year.
I'll make a motion to approve with gratitude for the number of years that she's served our school district.
I'll second that motion. Also.
Motion by Esser and a second by Schimick to accept the head cook retirement request with gratitude. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Dates for next board meeting. We're having our annual meeting October 27th, which is a Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, and then we'll have a special meeting to follow right afterwards. And then the policy committee meeting, November 3rd at 6 o'clock, if that works for those on policy.
Works for me.
On policy committee.
I think I wrote it down somewhere.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Any other committee meetings that have popped up? Doesn't look like it.
I'll make a motion to approve or adjourn.
Second.
A motion by Esser and a second by Yeager to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned 6:52. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Brad, for recording. You can stop the recording then.
Do you guys have the social media? People start like the end of the month?
Yeah, we're meeting